Hey guys, Scott from Perth here, otherwise known as Is It About My Cube on Twitch. I'm here to bring you a deck tech for the 7-Point Highlander MTGO League event, which will be starting on this Tuesday. It's going to be a preparation for the big event, which is happening in February, so I'm very keen to see how this one turns out. Signups are at mtgmerely.com. There's a link down in the description, along with a link to my deck list, the Twitch stream, and many other things that you should find interesting. I am going to be trying or endeavoring to stream my matches on Twitch. 7-Point Highlander is a great format. More Twitch coverage will be good, so we'll see how that goes. The deck which I'm presenting is obviously Temur Prowess. There's a lot of fans of this deck in the 7-Point community. It's a deck I play on paper. It's extremely fun, and I'm sure you guys would love to try it out and have a great time. So I play this in all the paper events in Perth. We have bi-weekly 7-Point events, and it's just such a blast to play. There's nothing like just one-shotting your opponent on turn 3 out of nowhere with a 1-2, and they're like, that's pretty good. So, the deck. Most people's versions of this deck are very similar. Most of the cards are locked in. It's it's been kind of fine-tuned, and most of the little pieces are in place, and you can't really take them out. But there's a couple of little cantrips or certain spells and that kind of thing that different people like to play with. So I'll show you how I run the story here. Essentially, our creature base, same 14 creatures everybody plays. The only one that's up for contention is potentially Thing in the Ice. It's insane if you have a very creature dense or token dense meta, but if you're versing a lot of control decks, a lot of combo decks, that kind of thing, artifact strategies, it's pretty slow, pretty dead in a lot of instances. Also, it bounces your other guys, so it can be a little bit of a nombo sometimes with things like Hierarch and Deathrite, or just if you happen to draw multiple creatures in a game. In terms of the rest of the creatures, you've got your dorks. They're amazing. Deathrite Shaman is a 1-mana planeswalker. This card is insanely broken in any format involving fetch lands and cantrips and stuff. Your 1-drop prowesses are great. You've got Delver. Seagate Stormcaller is a huge threat. I can't understate how powerful this card is, especially considering it's not pointed. Some people compare it to Snapcaster Mage. I don't really like that comparison. I think it's extremely powerful in this style of deck because you're really trying to resolve a couple of key spells. Things like Merchant Scroll, Ancestral, whatever. Even specific cantrips at certain points of the game, or bolts even. Seagate Stormcaller, essentially, when you play it, if they don't counter it, and then you cast, say, your Recall, they can counter one of your recalls, but you still get to recall at the end of the day, so it's done its job. If they counter the Seagate Stormcaller, then you've just opened the way for your recall. And then the ceiling of the card is obviously insane, where if they don't counter it and they don't counter either of your recalls, you've just paid 3 mana for a 2/1 and drawn 6, which is pretty good if you ask me. I'd like to say that the other standout threat in the deck that I want to shout out is probably Ethereal Forager. This card is a house. Oh my god. You tear through the deck with all your cantrips and your burn spells and your pump spells, so you're never lacking in instants and sorceries to exile to the delve clause on this card. And then since the addition of Reckless Charge into this deck, man, Ethereal Forager just goes off. It goes totally bonkers. If you ever get to exile one of your your Ancestral or your Treasure Cruise, or even a Gush, like the game's over pretty much. If it attacks, it's GG. Rest of the threat package, we know what they are. Dreadhorde Arcanist, cards bonkers with Ancestral and Reckless Charge as well. Yeah. Sorceries, most people are playing most of these cards. Merchant Scroll is one of our 7 points. The other 6 being 2 for Treasure Cruise and 4 for Recall. This slot is a bit strange in this deck because Treasure Cruise and Recall are extremely good for, their rates, and they are definitely deserving of their points. But it's actually kind of hard to find the 7th point because the most common things that you'll see in this slot are Merchant Scroll, Force of Will, or Snapcaster Mage. And they've all got their strengths and weaknesses, but none of them stand out as like the card to take. I like Merchant Scroll because I like finding Gush and Ancestral. Also, doubling it with Seagate is awesome. So Merchant Scroll is my card of choice. Plus, I have a really beautiful OG foil, so I just have to play it. I can definitely see you playing Snapcaster Mage instead, but that does lean you even more into the graveyard, and also it's something which you have to play on, it's got flash, so you're incentivized to play it on your opponent's turn. That means you're not going to be taking advantage of prowess triggers. It kind of plays against the strategy that the deck is aiming to work towards with the whole prowess theme. So I like Merchant Scroll. Try Force of Will. Try Snapcaster Mage. You can try whatever you want, but it's my personal favorite. Otherwise, Reckless Charge. Some people play Titan Strength. Other people play Slip Through Space. I like Reckless Charge in this slot just because not only do you get to cast it twice, but giving haste to your guys with attack triggers, so Arcanist and Forager are just busted, and also it means that you can very easily one-shot out of nowhere with a Kiln Fiend. Very, very important to remember. Regrowth is very slow and very clunky, but it gets you back your recall, it gets you back your cruise. It is just a solid card. You don't need to play this. It could just be another cantrip like Slip Through Space or whatever you want. But I like having access to, getting more cards. So I like Regrowth. Instance. Veil of Summer main deck. This is a meta call. We have a lot of black decks. We have a lot of blue decks. If you're not playing blue, almost everybody's playing black. So everyone's got Hand Disruption. Everyone's got counter spells. Veil of Summer. If you can main deck it, I think you should. Obviously, if you come up against some kind of red-green deck or some Naya beatdown or Naya lands or whatever, you're going to be a little bit sad. But it's just such an amazing card, and it is so powerful as a 1-mana cryptic command that I think it's worth having in the main deck. But it doesn't need to be. It can be another cantrip. Totally up to you. Other cards that I guess we're missing would be things like Groundswell, Assault Strobe, or Rite of Flame. Assault Strobe, Rite of Flame, these cards are very, very aggressive. They, when you're looking to go for more of a turn 2 or turn 3, latest in terms of kills. And so I'm not totally into that, so I'm playing like Regrowth instead. But if you want to get really low to the ground with the deck, you can play Assault Strobe, 1 mana, give a guy double strike, or Rite of Flame to just go off with a turn 2 kill. Otherwise, we have a lot of protection. We have a lot of cheap counter magic for tempo shenanigans. Apostle's Blessing gets them every time. Nobody expects the Seeker Protection. So spicy. Otherwise, yeah, land base, 18 lands, Blood Moon kills us immediately. Dear God, Blood Moon is so scary. If you can get your island against Blood Moon, you've got a chance, but there's a lot of green spells in the deck, and it's going to be an uphill battle if they resolve a Blood Moon, so bear that in mind. Otherwise, we have a single Underground Sea, which is pretty much purely there for Deathrite Shaman. If you want to put an elusive action in as a counterspell, you can, but remember it's 2 mana, and that's a lot of mana. Otherwise, Barbarian Ring is secret OP. You can get Threshold with this deck very easily, and it is just a free, it's a shock on a land, which is great. Hits walkers, deals with random blockers, 2 damage out of nowhere. Good card. Finally, we'll move on to the sideboard. This is where you're going to see the most variation in people's deck lists. I've never seen anybody else play Carpet of Flowers in the deck, and I understand why, because it's not what we want to do. We have a lot of cheap cards. You can very easily run out of gas and not have anything to do with the mana. But on the flip side, I couldn't count the amount of games where I've had like 7 cards in my hand and a recall in there, like in the 7, and I've wasted extra recalls, and I'm just like, the only thing that's stopping me right now is my mana, and I've got 3 lands or something, and it's like, if I had access to more mana, I could absolutely hog wild. So Carpet of Flowers is really, really good for you to get these insane turn 2 or turn 3, turn 4s against control decks. It lets you just kind of dump your hand and play through their counter magic. And also it means that you can use the ability of it to make mana on your turn to make your plays, and then hold up your lands for any kind of counter magic shenanigans on your opponent's turn. The rest, I guess we have hate for artifacts in Cindervines, Collector Oof, Smash the Smithereens, and Null Rod. There's no way that we're going to get got by Time Vault combo. We just have so much hate for that kind of stuff that, you know, we should have that on lockdown. Cindervines also doubles as a way to deal with Blood Moon or Back to Basics, and any just random annoying enchantments that you might come up against. And if they're playing Storm, sick. Collector Oof, once, you know, obviously also great for artifact strategies. Not much needs to be said about this guy. Blue base decks, we've got Dispel, we've got Divert if it's needed. We also have Pyroblast. So some really, really effective counter magic there. If they're in blue-red, you can play Hydroblast, but these three are the major players for that matchup, alongside Carpet of Flowers and Clothis if you want to get grindy. Divert is insane in the mirror match. I would definitely like to redirect my opponent's Ancestral to me, but also against any black deck, if they're trying to him you, if they're trying to Thoughtseize you, whatever they're trying to do, Divert just wins games on the spot. Him to Turak, Divert, make them discard 2. Good lord. Forkbolt, great against green dorks. Not much needs to be said. Submerge, busted card. Bring it in against any green decks as well. Any big boy decks, this is really powerful against because it's just a free Griptide, blanks their draw step, and it's a major tempo advantage for you. And then the rest, we've got some graveyard hate, and then Clothis, which is just probably the best grinding engine in the format. This is obviously a deck that does not want to grind. We want to get them dead, but sometimes you can't help but grind, and Clothis does that better than almost any other card does in the game. You could play Sulfuric Vortex as well, or in replacement of Clothis, but I think Clothis is probably the best at that kind of job. So, there's a deck tech. Hope you guys enjoyed. I'm not a master of the deck, but I really enjoy playing it. So I'm very keen to try this, or to play this in the league, and then potentially move it into the February event as well. To close this deck tech, I'd like to thank Isaac for spearheading this entire operation. He's a legend, alongside Josh and Pat's MTG Bazaar and Rob's MTG Auction House for sponsoring the event. A double shout out to Josh and Pat's because they also sponsor my stream. Pat, you're a goddamn legend. Thank you so much. I love you forever, man. And finally, we're very blessed that 7Pt Highlander is very, very cheap on MTGO. However, if any of you guys need access to a rental service, I highly recommend using Manatraders. They sponsor my stream. They've got so much stock, it's insane. So easy to use their interface. Their prices are the best on the market in terms of rental services. And if you sign up using the code CUBE at the checkout, you'll get 15% off your first 3 months of service with them. My referral link will be down in the description. Once again, thanks for watching this deck tech, and I'll see you guys in the event. Peace.